Okay, let's take a look at comparative and superlative forms of adjectives and adverbs. So when do we use them and what kind of forms do we have to use with adjectives and adverbs? So comparatives and superlatives, they are listed in your textbook in chapter 8a2, so Lektion 8a2, and the pages are 334 till 337. Okay, when do we use adjective first? The first question is, adjectives are elements we use to describe characteristics of different things, items, or concepts. We can describe a flower or a car or weather outside. We can describe people or even some kind of concepts, for example, music. And we can use different adjectives to describe the things, those elements. Like, for example, for the rose, we can say that the rose is red and car is fast and the weather may be cold or warm. So the person characteristics may be intelligent, smart, and when we describe music, we can just say the music is beautiful. So how do we create the sentence in German? The simple sentence will be when we just say Die Rose ist rot. Okay, so when we describe the rose, we use the color red, rot. Or when we describe a car, we can say Das Auto ist schnell. So the car is fast. Okay, so here everything is more or less logical. We just used adjective from a dictionary. So, but let us analyze the situation when we compare two things. Let's say, for example, we picked a car and we would say that this car is fast, so das Auto ist schnell. And then we picked another car and the second car, it drives fast as well. Das Auto ist schnell. However, if we compare these two cars, we would say that the second car is much faster. So how can we say it in German? In German, we just add specific ending to the end of our adjective. So now the second sentence says, Das Auto ist schneller. So ending er. So let us take a look at many elements we can compare. For example, one book is interesting. Das Buch ist interessant. And then we compare it to another book, and some of you may find the second book much more interesting. So, das Buch ist interessanter. So we don't say more interesting in German language. We just use the same adjective, we just put additional ending to the end, ending er. Das Buch ist interessanter. So when we describe a bicycle, we can say das Fahrrad ist schnell. If we compare it to the car, we can say das Auto ist schneller. There are a couple of adjectives which we just have to take care of vowels. For example, die Uhr ist teuer, expensive. So look, I highlighted this E at the end. See what happens now if you compare it with much expensive watch. We say die Uhr ist teurer. So our E, our A between U and R, so it disappears. So the same if we say about jacket, die Jacke is dunkel, dark. Look, if you compare it with much darker jacket, we say die Jacke is dunkler. Now our A between K and L will disappear, dunkler. So we have to keep in mind those changes in such adjectives as teuer or dunkel. So if we compare another things, for example, car, one car is old, das Auto ist alt, and then we will find much older car, we will say das Auto ist älter. As you see now, we have a change of vowel in the stem. So the vowel will have an umlaut in the comparative form. Another example is das Kind ist jung, the child is young, and das Kind ist jünger. So now we have U, we use U with umlaut, but we still keep these endings at the end, ending er. Another adjective when we compare suitcases, der Koffer ist groß und der Koffer ist größer. Again, change of vowel in the stem into umlaut. So keep in mind, if we have like one syllable adjectives, very often umlaut vowels in the stem will receive such umlauts. Just keep it in mind. And there are a couple of exceptions. Like for many of you, probably this book is very good. Das Buch ist gut. If I compare with the book I like the most, I would say my book is better. So das Buch ist besser. If you see, I change my adjective completely. The same with adverbs. Ich trinke gern Kaffee. I drink likely coffee. I enjoy drinking coffee. Und I can say, ich trinke lieber Tee. I change my gern into lieber. It's absolutely different forms. Or I can say, von Sport verstehe ich viel, aber von Musik verstehe ich mehr. So viel and mehr. So those are absolutely different forms. Just keep in mind. Gut, besser, gern, lieber, viel, mehr. Good. Let's continue. Imagine we compare a bicycle, let's say, to the motorcycle. Das Fahrrad ist schnell. This is our first sentence. And we would say that motorcycle is the faster. Now we will say das Motorrad ist schneller. So we know how to do it. Just put ending ER to the end. But if we compare our bicycle and our motorcycle with a car, we would say that the car is the fastest vehicle from all three of them. No? So we use such called superlative form. Superlative form is indicate that a thing or person has more of a particular quality than anyone or anything else. So we create such called superlative form, and we will say das Auto ist am schnellsten. Look, we use am and we put sten to the end of our root word schnell. So practically we create some kind of list, and what is on the top of this list, this is the most, the best. So it has more particular quality than all other things or anyone or anything else. So let's take a look at a couple of examples. For example, I would say Paris ist am schönsten. So around the world, many cities I visit, I think Paris is the most beautiful city. So I would say am schönsten. Okay, if we compare countries, there is one country, the biggest in the world. We will say Russland ist am größten. So we produce superlative form from the verb groß. But then look, we use this O umlaut. We still keep using it from the comparative form, größten. And the letter SZ represents now S from groß and sten ending S from ending STEN, größten. So another example with irregular adjective, Deutsch interessiert mich am meisten. So this is superlative form from the adverb viel. So once again, how do we create comparatives and superlative forms from adjective? Basic adjectives, so Grundform schön, comparative form schöner, superlative form am schönsten. So adjectives with change of vowels in the stem. Alt, so Grundform alt, comparative form älter, and the superlative form am ältesten. So you will read in your textbook on page 335 that if our stem of the adjective ends in D, T, or an S sound, we put additional A just for better pronunciation. I highlighted it yellow. Am ältesten. And exceptions are good, besser, am besten. So please memorize those exceptions. They are listed on page 335 and do all exercises. And in my next presentation, we will talk about the preceding adjectives and forms of preceding adjectives in comparative and superlative forms.